Establishment.
Establishment.
A first-class training establishment.
Young people are supposed to rebel against the establishment.
The public is treated with contempt by the art establishment. The establishment of NATO in 1949.
Estate.
Estate.
The property is part of the deceased's estate.
A country estate.
Estate agent.
Estate agent.
Estate car.
Estate car.
Estate tax.
Estate tax.
Esteem.
Esteem.
The critics held him in high esteem as an actor.
Please accept the small gift we enclose as a mark of our esteem.
My father's complete lack of esteem for actors.
Peden was greatly esteemed by the people of Ayrshire. Peden was greatly esteemed by the people of Ayrshire.
He was esteemed as a literary wit.
Esteemed. Esteemed. The esteemed French critic Olivier Boissière.
Highly esteemed scholars.
Aesthete.
Aesthete.
Estimable.
Estimable.
Estimation.
Estimate.
Estimate.
We just need an estimate of the number of people who will come.
The garage said they'd send me an estimate for the work.
The tree is estimated to be at least 700 years old. Organisers estimated the crowd at 50,000.
Scientists estimate that smoking reduces life expectancy by around 12 years on average.
It's not easy to estimate how many people have the disease.
Estimation.
Estimation.
In your estimation, who's going to win?
Estimations of total world sales are around the 50 million mark.
Estranged.
Estranged.
Mill became estranged from his family after the marriage.
Young adults who feel estranged from the church.
Estrogen.
Estrogen.
Estuary.
Estuary.
The Thames estuary.
ETA.
ETA.
E-tailer.
E-tailer. Et al.
Et al.
Boas et al. 2001.
Etc.
Etc.
Etch.
Etch.
A gravestone with 3 names etched on it.
A laser is used to etch a pattern in the smooth surface of the disc. A laser is used to etch a pattern in the smooth surface of the disc.
The island remained etched in my memory. The island remained etched in my memory.
Her face was etched with tiredness. Craig saw lines of pain etched around her mouth.
Etched glass.
Etching.
Etching.
Eternal.
Eternal.
The Christian promise of eternal life. She's an eternal optimist. The eternal arguments between mother and son.
Eternally.
Eternally.
I'll be eternally grateful to you for this.
He's a player who's eternally arguing with the referee.
Eternal triangle. Eternal triangle.
Eternity.
Eternity.
Here she waited for what seemed like an eternity. Here she waited for what seemed like an eternity.
That week was an eternity of solitude and boredom.
A little animal preserved for all eternity as a fossil.
Eternity ring.
Eternity ring.
Ith.
Ith.
He giveth.
Ethanol.
Ethanol.
Ether.
Ether.
Voices coming through the ether.
Ethereal.
Ethereal.
Ethereal beauty.
His music is ethereal.
Ethernet.
Ethernet.
Ethic.
Ethic.
The old ethic of hard work has given way to a new ethic of instant gratification. The old ethic of hard work has given way to a new ethic of instant gratification.
A report on the ethics of gene therapy.
Public concern about medical ethics. Public concern about medical ethics.
A code of ethics.
Ethical.
Ethical.
The use of animals in scientific tests raises difficult ethical questions.
The President must have the highest ethical standards.
I don't think it's ethical for you to accept a job you know you can't do. I don't think it's ethical for you to accept a job you know you can't do.
Ethical investment policies. Ethical investment policies.
Ethnic.
Ethnic.
The school teaches pupils from different ethnic groups.
Ethnic Russians in Estonia.
The students are from a variety of ethnic backgrounds.
Plans to partition the Republic along ethnic lines.
Ethnic music.
Suriname is culturally and ethnically diverse.
In that neighborhood of New York, we were all ethnics.
Ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic minority.
Ethnic minority.
Racial discrimination against doctors from ethnic minorities.
Ethnocentric.
Ethnocentric.
Ethnocentric history textbooks.
Ethnography.
Ethnography.
Ethnology.
Ethnology.
Ethos.
Ethos.
A community in which people lived according to an ethos of sharing and caring.
Ethyl alcohol.
Ethyl alcohol.
E-ticket.
E-ticket.
Etiolated.
Etiolated.
Etiology.
Etiology.
Etiquette.
Etiquette.
Strict rules of professional etiquette.
Et.
Et.
A kitchenette.
A snackette. An usherette.
Flannelette.
Chairs covered with leatherette.
Etymology.
Etymology.
Eucalyptus.
Eucalyptus.
Eucharist.
Eucharist.
Eugenics.
Eugenics.
Eulogize.
Eulogize.
The poem does not eulogize the dead soldiers.
Commentators are eulogizing about the 17-year-old left-hander.
Eulogy.
Eulogy.
The minister delivered a long eulogy.
Eunuch.
Eunuch.
Euphemism.
Euphemism.
Pass away is a euphemism for die.
Euphemistic.
Euphemistic.
Euphoria.
Euphoria.
There was a general atmosphere of pessimism after the euphoria of last year. Euphoric.
Euphoric.
Scientists are euphoric at the success of the test.
Eurasian.
Eurasian.
Eureka.
Eureka.
Euro.
Euro.
The value of the euro against the dollar.
Prices are given in pounds and euros.
Euro.
Euro MPs. Europop.
The Euro-Asiatic area.
Eurocrat.
Eurocrat.
Eurodollar.
Eurodollar.
Europe.
Europe.
Eastern Europe. The Prime Minister's stated aim of keeping Britain at the heart of Europe. British exports to Europe.
European.
European.
European languages.
Our European partners.
European Union.
European Union.
Eurosceptic. Eurosceptic.
Conservative Eurosceptics.
Euthanasia.
Euthanasia.
Euthanize.
Euthanize.
The decision to euthanize a pet is heartbreaking.
Evacuate.
Evacuate.
Several families were evacuated from their homes.
During the war, he was evacuated to Scotland.
Police evacuated the area.
The order was given to evacuate.
The evacuation of British troops from the area.
Police ordered the evacuation of the building.
Evacuee.
Evacuee.
Evade.
Evade.
I could tell that he was trying to evade the issue.
The minister evaded the question. You can't go on evading your responsibilities in this way.
You're simply trying to evade the problem.
Employers will always try to find ways to evade tax.
She managed to evade the police. So far, he has evaded capture.
The subtleties of his argument evaded me. The subtleties of his argument evaded me. The subtleties of his argument evaded me.
Evaluate.
Evaluate.
You should be able to evaluate your own work.
We need to evaluate the success of the campaign. It can be difficult to evaluate the effectiveness of different treatments. Evaluation.
Evaluation.
We need to carry out a proper evaluation of the new system.
They took some samples of products for evaluation.
Evanescent.
Evanescent.
Evangelist.
Evangelist.
His evangelistic work.
Evangelical.
Evangelical.
The Evangelical Church.
Evangelical missionaries.
He spoke with evangelical fervour. Evangelist.
Evangelist.
His evangelistic work. Evangelize.
Evangelize.
An attempt to evangelize the whole nation.
Evaporate.
Evaporate.
Most of the water had evaporated.
The sun evaporates moisture on the leaves.
Hopes of achieving peace are beginning to evaporate.
His courage had evaporated away.
Evaporated milk.
Evaporated milk.
Evasion.
Evasion.
He is in prison for tax evasion.
She accused him of evasion of his responsibilities. I'm tired of his lies and evasions. Evasive.
Evasive.
Paul's being a bit evasive about this job.
An evasive reply.
Both pilots took evasive action and a collision was avoided.
She answered evasively.
Eve.
Eve.
On the eve of the election.
We're arriving on Christmas Eve.
A New Year's Eve party.
One summer's eve.
Even. Even.
Most companies have suffered a drop in their profits, even very large companies.
It was quite difficult to see, even with the light on.
He became quite successful and even appeared on a television show once.
She did not even bother to phone us.
He never even acknowledged my letter.
This will make our job even more difficult.
The news was even worse than we expected.
The new version is even better than the old one.
Some patients become depressed, even suicidal. I know he's only a child, but even so, he should have known that what he was doing was wrong.
She's going to have problems finding a job even if she gets her A-levels.
Even though he's 24 now, he's still like a little child.
I can still remember, even though it was so long ago.
Even now I find it hard to believe that he lied.
They invested in new machinery and equipment, but even then the business was still losing money.
He realised, even as he spoke, that no one would ever believe him.
The floor must be completely even before we lay the tiles.
You need a flat, even surface to work on.
He had lovely white, even teeth.
The room is kept at an even temperature.
Wood burns at a fairly even rate.
Divide the dough into 3 even amounts.
An even distribution of wealth. 2, 4, 6, and 8 are even numbers.
The first half was very even, and neither side scored.
An even contest.
At the end of the first half, the score is even. If you give me $5, we'll be even.
He read most of the speech in an even tone.
I think we have an even chance of winning. We knew there was an even chance that the operation would fail.
I'll get even with him one day.
We're hoping that we'll at least break even, and perhaps make a small profit.
The differences in their income should even out over time.
Use a brush to even out the variations in colour.
We put on a couple of more experienced players to even things up a bit.
Even-handed.
Even-handed.
He was very even-handed in the way he treated his employees.
Evening.
Evening.
I do most of my studying in the evening.
I'm usually out on Friday evenings.
What are you doing tomorrow evening?
Peter left yesterday evening.
I'll see you this evening.
It was early evening by the time we got home.
We had just finished our evening meal when the doorbell rang. A broadcast on the evening news.
A musical evening.
An evening of music and poetry.
Evening, Joe. Everything all right?
Evening class.
Evening class.
Evening dress.
Evening dress.
Evening primrose.
Evening primrose.
Evenly.
Evenly.
Make sure the surface is evenly covered with paint.
Spread the butter evenly over the toast.
Support for the Liberals is fairly evenly spread across the country.
Make sure the weight is evenly distributed.
The profits will be split evenly between the 3 of us.
Government ministers are fairly evenly divided on this issue.
The prospects for the country are fairly evenly balanced between peaceful reform and revolution.
He was breathing more evenly now.
Rows of evenly spaced desks.
The two teams are very evenly matched.
Evens.
Evens.
The evens favourite.
Evensong.
Evensong.
Event.
Event.
One of the most important events in the history of mankind.
The conference was an important social event.
One of the major sporting events of the year.
The school raises money by organising fundraising events.
The next event will be the 100 metres.
The 800 metres is not his best event.
I might see you tomorrow, but I'll phone in any event.
Extra police officers were brought in, although in the event the demonstration passed off peacefully. Extra police officers were brought in, although in the event the demonstration passed off peacefully.
In the normal course of events, the money is released within about 3 months. In the normal course of events, the money is released within about 3 months.
He left a letter for me to read in the event of his death.
Even-tempered.
Even-tempered.
Eventful.
Eventful.
She's led an eventful life.
An eventful day. Eventide.
Eventide.
Eventing.
Eventing.
Eventual.
Eventual.
Sweden were the eventual winners of the tournament.
Both sides were happy with the eventual outcome of the talks.
Eventuality.
Eventuality.
We are prepared for every eventuality.
That is an unlikely eventuality.
Eventually.
Eventually.
He eventually escaped and made his way back to England. Eventually she got a job and moved to London.
Ever.
Ever.
Nothing ever seems to upset him.
Have you ever been to Paris?
I don't think I've ever been here before.
If you're ever in Seattle, come and see me.
Ever optimistic, I decided to take the exam again.
We hardly ever go out.
Nothing lasts forever. As ever, Joe was late.
My back has been bad ever since I fell and hurt it 2 years ago.
I suppose they'll get married and live happily ever after. I suppose they'll get married and live happily ever after.
Last night's show was better than ever. George was as miserable as ever.
The food was as bad as ever.
The assistant was ever so helpful. Thanks ever so much.
She's ever such a nice girl.
The ever-increasing problem of drugs in the inner cities. The ever-increasing problem of drugs in the inner cities.
He's a natural comedian if ever there was one. He's a natural comedian if ever there was one.
Evergreen. Evergreen.
The evergreen Cliff Richard.
Everlasting.
Everlasting.
Everlasting fame.
A symbol of God's everlasting love.
A belief in life everlasting.
Evermore.
Evermore.
I will love you for evermore. Every.
Every.
We looked carefully at every car that drove past.
Every child will receive a certificate at the end of the course. I enjoyed every minute of the film.
I listened carefully to every word he said.
He seems to know every single person in the school. He seems to know every single person in the school.
They made us pick up every last scrap of paper. They made us pick up every last scrap of paper. They made us pick up every last scrap of paper.
They see each other every day.
Richard visits his mother every week.
Reapply your sunscreen every 2 hours.
Frida had to stop to rest every 100 meters or so.
There were traffic lights every 10 yards.
The roof leaks every time it rains.
I still see her every now and then.
You only need to water plants every other day.
I visit my parents every other weekend.
In Britain, 1 in every 3 marriages now ends in divorce.
We wish you every happiness in your new home.
There is every chance that he will recover.
We have every reason to believe that the operation will be a success.
We have every intention of winning this competition. The school's much better now in every way.
Taking regular exercise is every bit as important as having a healthy diet.
I loved him every bit as much as she did.
I didn't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry knowing about my private life.
Kids ran off every which way.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Every day.
Every day.
The problems of everyday life.
Wearing everyday clothes.
A simple everyday object.
Describe it in ordinary, everyday language.
Every man.
Every man.
Everyone.
Everyone.
If everyone is ready, I'll begin.
Send my best wishes to everyone in the family.
Of course, everyone else thought it was hilarious.
Not everyone enjoys sport.
Every place.
Every place.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust.
I decided to tell her everything. Apart from the bus arriving late, everything else seemed to be going according to plan.
Everything's fine at the moment.
I felt that everything was going wrong.
Money isn't everything.
His children mean everything to him.
What do you buy for the man who has everything?
Tina's worried about her work and everything.
You shouldn't worry so much. You've got everything going for you.
I think we've packed everything but the kitchen sink.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
I've looked everywhere, but I can't find the map. He's travelled everywhere in Europe. The south should remain dry, but everywhere else will have heavy rain. The south should remain dry, but everywhere else will have heavy rain. You must have seen the posters, they're everywhere.
Eve's pudding.
Eve's pudding.
Evict.
Evict.
They were unable to pay the rent and were evicted from their home.
They refused to leave and were forcibly evicted.
Attempts to have them evicted.
The family now faces eviction from their home.
Evidence.
Evidence.
At present, we have no evidence of life on other planets.
There is no evidence for these claims.
Do you have evidence that this treatment works?
Murrow's evidence was enough to convict Hayes of murder. Murrow's evidence was enough to convict Hayes of murder. Murrow's evidence was enough to convict Hayes of murder.
He refused to give evidence at the trial.
There was very little evidence against the two men. The documents may be used in evidence at the trial.
The police are always in evidence at football matches.
The volcano is still active, as evidenced by the recent eruption. The volcano is still active, as evidenced by the recent eruption.